In this chapter of the 1/48 scale Japanese VAL dive bomber build, I will be spraying or hand painting some parts needed to complete the model and cementing quite a few of these parts in place. The last items to cement into the cockpit are the machine gun and the compass table assembly. Hand painting TCP-013 aluminum on two small parts that will be cemented to the front of the propeller. Next is hand painting TCP-1386 light gray N10 onto the dive brakes and the 6 supports for those dive brakes. The last few parts for the VAL dive bomber need to be spray painted. We will start with the TCP-013 aluminum on the main bomb supports. Both sides are done. Here I am spraying TCP-256 light gray primer for the parts used at the rear landing area. Both sides are done. Now I am ready to cement a number of parts onto the underside of the aircraft and other assemblies together to complete the build of the VAL dive bomber. I am starting with cementing the engine into the cowl. The small parts that I had hand painted aluminum need to be cemented onto the front of the propeller now. I am now ready to cement the 6 supports for the dive brakes into their positions on the underside of the wings. Note that one of these supports escaped from the tweezers and I could not find it. Thus, only 5 supports ended up being cemented in place. Notice that I had to ream out the holes in the wings to fit the supports in those holes. A tiny clear lens to represent the landing light is cemented in next. The 2 smaller bombs that are outboard on the wings are cemented in next. Note that the supports for the dive brakes have already been done on both wings. Remember that the holes need to be substantially reamed out, as these holes are too small for the pins on the supports. Cement the dive brakes onto the supports on both wings. Cement the 2 exhausts onto their positions in the front of the fuselage. Be careful to place these so that the cowl will fit properly over these exhausts. Cement the cowl engine assembly in place. Note that it only fits onto the fuselage one way, and that the cutouts on the cowl for the exhausts should fit perfectly around those exhausts. Push the propeller into the engine in the cowl. Notice that the slip bearing in that engine allows the propeller to turn freely. Cement the large main bomb rack pieces in place. Be careful to set the pins in correctly so that the main bomb will sit in comfortably. The second large piece has to be slid into the opening at the underside of the fuselage. It is not easy to place the pins into the holes. Be patient. Cement the 2 small bomb supports into the holes provided towards the front. These are tiny parts. They may slip out of the tweezers holding them. Cement the remaining main bomb supports in place. These are the small pieces, followed by both wheel assemblies, and then finally the large bomb itself. The arrestor hook is the next part to cement near the rear of the aircraft, and then the rear wheel. A small part is cemented in place on the underside of the right wing. The tail skid is next. This now completes all the parts for the underside of the VAL dive bomber. Cement the forward machine gun in place just in front of the cockpit. The antenna is cemented onto the top of the canopy. Set the canopy aside, as this will be cemented in after we put flat finish onto the entire model. TCP-017 clear flat finish is now sprayed on the entire model. I will start with the upper side of the VAL dive bomber. This coating serves two main purposes. First, to protect and seal the decals and the paint, and secondly, so you can handle the aircraft without damaging any of the surfaces. I am spraying the clear flat finish from a 2-ounce stock bottle fitted with a Badger adapter. Be sure to mix the flat finish, as the flattening agents tend to settle to the bottom. I use a piece of a sprue to scrape the material off the bottom and then place the bottle on a paint shaker. As I normally do, the spraying is being done at 28 to 30 psi with a Vega 2000 airbrush fitted with a 0.3 millimeter or medium tip. Repeat the procedures described for the underside of the aircraft. Set aside to dry overnight. The final part to add is the canopy with the antenna. Cement that in place and you are done. This is the completed Hasegawa 1/48 scale VAL dive bomber. This model represents those aircraft aboard the Japanese aircraft carrier Soryu involved in the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. The kit goes together fairly easily and the instructions are easy to follow. Note that you cannot use Walther Salvaset for the Hasegawa decals, as it is too strong. Painting and masking multiple colors was achieved using TCP 900 masking paper, and every color sprayed was painted straight from stock bottles without the need for thinning. Several parts were also hand painted. If you have any questions about techniques explored in this video, or general questions about this build, please post your questions in the comments section below.